You felt it before the warning ever had a name. A tightening in your chest. A silence that spoke louder than words. This message didn't find you by accident. You're not here because you are curious. You are here because you are marked to see. And right now, God is pulling the veil back just enough to show you a man standing closer than he should. He smiles. He listens. He mirrors your light. But something in him does not belong to the truth. This is not fear. This is discernment awakening. And what makes this dangerous is that he does not know you already see him. By the end of this message, you will understand why he was allowed into your path, what role he was meant to play, and why his time in your life is almost over. Stay with me. The warning comes in layers. You feel at the moment he enters your orbit the subtle shift in the air, a vibration you cannot name but cannot ignore. His presence is too smooth, too attuned, as if he knows where your soul hurts before you even speak. You tell yourself it's nothing. That intuition is just nerves. But deep down, something warns you. This man was allowed near you for a reason. Not all of it good. Conversations flow effortlessly. Laughter feels effortless. Trust forms before your eyes even realize it. And yet, small things ripple beneath the surface. A glance that lingers too long, a hesitation in his smile, words that don't quite match the weight in his eyes. You catch these fleeting moments, brush them away, blaming imagination. Denial is easier than the truth. Meanwhile, he studies you. Quietly, he mirrors your movements, your joys, your vulnerabilities, without fully realizing the depth of what he's absorbing. Your energy, the light you barely admit exists even to yourself, soothes something fractured in him. He doesn't know the power he's stepping into. He does not realize you are not naive. Every step he takes closer to you becomes a test you didn't ask for. Missed calls, tiny contradictions, moments of dissonance you can feel in your chest, sharp and electric. It whispers that this proximity is not meant to protect you, but to awaken you. And just as your heart flutters between fear and familiarity, a realization slithers through your consciousness. He was never sent to guide you, to lift you, or to heal. He was sent to reveal your own discernment, to see whether you would finally listen to the quiet, unwavering voice that is always known. The question hangs unspoken as the room feels suddenly colder. Will you recognize the danger before it is too late? The moment your clarity sharpens, the air changes around you. You notice it in the silence after he leaves, the subtle drain, the shadow lingering where his presence once was. Your soul feels heavier, yet sharper, as if waking from a fog that you didn't know had settled in. You start to see patterns, the faint echoes of manipulation hidden in charm, the way his words coil around your vulnerabilities like a serpent. You begin to pull back, almost instinctively, not with anger, not with accusation, but with the quiet gravity of someone who knows something must change. You feel isolated, because your awakening separates you from what once seemed normal. Friends and confidants don't see the warning you feel in your bones, the truth trembling behind your eyes. And this loneliness, though bitter, carries the seed of strength. From his perspective, things shift too. He senses the pull, feels the invisible line forming, and confusion flickers across his features. What once came easily, access to your energy, your attention, now feels like slipping sand. He tests boundaries he doesn't fully understand, missteps that expose his fragility, the cracks in his carefully constructed persona. Your emotions oscillate between doubt and certainty. You wonder if your perception is harsh, if your intuition is being paranoid. But a whisper in your spirit persists, persistent and insistent, like a bell tolling in the distance. Watch carefully. Not everything is as it seems. And then it happens, a moment so small yet piercing, a gesture, a look, a phrase that doesn't fit. You feel like a chill crawling down your spine. He has crossed a threshold you cannot ignore. The loneliness isn't punishment, it's the beginning of clarity. And in that stillness, a question lingers, dark and urgent. How much of him is truly his own, and how much exists to test you? You begin to notice it now. the subtle tremor in his confidence, the flicker of unease when you speak your truth. Your clarity unsettles him, though he would never admit it, even to himself. Every boundary you set, every step you take toward your own light, feels to him like a loss of control. You were once predictable, malleable, a steady source of comfort. Now, you are a storm, and storms cannot be contained. From his perspective, your awakening is a threat. He watches you with quiet desperation, attempting charm, testing loyalty, pushing subtly against the walls you've built. He does not understand your strength. He cannot comprehend the force growing inside you. His admiration becomes tension. His encouragement becomes subtle resistance. In his attempts to reclaim the energy he once borrowed effortlessly, he exposes the fragility beneath his mask. Emotionally, this chapter is a turning point. You feel the weight of betrayal mixed with revelation. The man you thought was your ally is simply a mirror, reflecting what cannot exist in alignment with your growth. And yet, you feel no rage. Only a still, piercing awareness. He is not evil, merely misaligned. Your intuition sharpens into a weapon. You see his patterns, anticipate his maneuvers, feel the subtle shift of his energy before it even reaches the surface. The danger is not overt, but it is real. Indeed, then, as if the universe itself whispers in your ear, the truth strikes. This man's role was never to walk beside you, but to illuminate your strength. And the question that lingers in the quiet between heartbeats, dark and insistent, leaves a chill. If he cannot follow you in light, what will happen when he faces the consequences of his own shadow? The distance begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, like a shadow stretching across a room at sunset. You do not shout, you do not fight. You simply stop bending. Your voice becomes firmer, your silence heavier. The energy between you no longer hums with familiarity, it recoils, aware that your boundaries are no longer negotiable. You feel a strange liberation in the separation, though it carries a sting, a grief you cannot fully name. From his perspective, panic rises like smoke. He senses the warmth he once borrowed is slipping, escaping his grasp. Charm falters. Words that used to glide smoothly now stumble. The mirrors he once held up to you no longer reflect your light. They reveal his fractures, his dependence, the gaps in his authenticity. He begins to see the consequences of relying on what was never truly his to claim. Emotionally, you are in a liminal space, balanced between sorrow and relief. You mourn not his failure, but the illusion he created, what could have been, what you hoped he could be, now dissolving like mist. Yet beneath the grief, an undeniable empowerment begins to take root. The solitude teaches clarity. The silence teaches strength. The space between you becomes a crucible, forging the resilience that was always dormant. God's warning is now unmistakable. Some people are removed not for punishment, but for awakening. And as the echoes of his absence linger, you recognize a profound truth. The lessons he delivered through proximity are the weapons you now carry to protect your soul. And in the quiet aftermath, the open loop shivers. What will rise from the strength you've claimed, now that nothing misaligned can touch you? Now, you begin to see it, the truth shimmering behind the pain. The man who once unsettled your world was never your enemy. He was the catalyst, the mirror, the shadow that forced you to recognize your own power. Every moment of doubt, every flicker of loneliness, every subtle betrayal was a signpost pointing you back to yourself. This was the divine lesson hidden in plain sight. You feel your intuition sharpen into a weapon of clarity. Boundaries that once felt rigid now feel like shields of light, unyielding and pure. You move through spaces once dominated by fear and confusion with ease. Your presence no longer borrowing energy, but radiating it. You are awakening fully, and the universe takes notice. From his perspective, the absence of control gnaws at him. He senses the shift, but cannot reverse it. What he once borrowed freely, the influence over your energy, your attention, your trust, slips through his fingers like sand. He is left to confront the truth of himself. Admiration cannot sustain power, and manipulation cannot endure the force of someone who knows their worth. Emotionally, this is the space of gratitude without attachment. You mourn what was never yours to hold. And in that mourning, you reclaim something far greater: self-trust, discernment, spiritual sovereignty. The warning has transformed into a gift, one that cannot be taken, ignored, or corrupted. And as the final layers of fear fall away, the open loop remains. This is not the end, but the beginning. If this was your first awakening, what will rise now that your eyes are fully open? The final truth settles over you like dawn breaking after a storm. You see it clearly now. You were never meant to be defined by him, controlled by him, or shaped around his shadows. His role in your life was never permanent. It was temporary, catalytic, a divine mirror to awaken what was always yours. Every doubt, every subtle betrayal, every quiet manipulation was a test, not of your patience, but of your vision. You feel your power solidify, unshakable. What once felt like pain now resonates as clarity. The lessons he brought, the hesitation, the manipulation, the charm turned venom, have become tools. You walk forward with the calm confidence of someone who has faced illusions and emerged stronger, aware that nothing misaligned can touch you again. From his perspective, the loss is total. The energy he relied on, the influence he once wielded, evaporates. Karmic justice does not shout. It whispers in silence, and he now faces the reflection of his own choices. There is no revenge needed. The universe has taken care of the balance. Emotionally, you are whole, grounded, untouchable. Gratitude replaces bitterness. Awareness replaces fear. You understand now that God's warning was never about danger. It was about awakening, protection, and preparation. The man who tested you was never the end of your story, but the beginning of your true journey. And as you step fully into your light, the open loop closes with a profound clarity. Nothing in this world can dim the fire of a chosen soul. The path ahead is yours, and the universe bends to the strength you now carry.